Hey guys, it's Mrs. Carlisle, and I'm sorry that I can't be there today, but I know that you're going to show our guest teacher just how awesome Norfolk Middle School's fifth graders are by working really hard and creating some really cool stuff. So we have two big things that we need to get done today. Number one, we need to finish up our window projects from last week. So I think most of you were pretty well done with them, but I know that there's still a couple people that need to finish them up. So what's going to happen is they're all going to get handed back to everybody. Check over your project, make sure it's the way that you want it to be, and then when you're finished, turn it into the fifth grade hand-in box. If you still have a little bit of work to do and you can't quite remember what it is that you need to do, then ask one of your classmates to help you out, and they can help you cut your mat or get it taped together. And then again, everybody's worksheet and everybody's window should get turned into the fifth grade box by the end of class. The second thing that I need you to do then, and I want everybody to take this as homework, okay? Even if you finish in class today, you're still going to take it with you back to your classroom and put it in your classroom's art folder. I don't want any of them to get mixed in with the windows and then we think that they're lost. So the first thing that I need you to do is I need you to think about geometric shapes and how they're the circles and the squares and they're always drawn exactly the same. Well, for our next project, we're actually going to use the opposite kind of shapes. If you remember, those are called organic shapes. And we're going to base our artwork on the artist named Carla Sonheim. So this is her really cool book that I love a bunch. And she makes these imaginary animals. What she does is she'll go out and find things like cracks in the sidewalk. And then she looks at those cracks and sees if she can turn them into anything, like a bunch of different animals. And so that's what you guys are going to do today. You're going to get a whole bunch of lines on your worksheet, and you're going to look at those different lines, and maybe you have to turn them sideways, and maybe you have to turn them upside down. But you're going to look at those lines and the shapes that they make that are organic shapes, and you're going to turn those shapes into something. Now, can you connect more than one shape? Yeah. Can you add some details into one of those shapes? Yeah. You get to do whatever it is that you want to do with these shapes. So I don't want you to just take this piece of paper and like draw a big sunshine on top of it, because that's not using the shapes that are there. I want you to look at those shapes and say, does this look like a guy's big nose? Could I add an eye there? What if I made it into a beak instead of an open mouth? Or what if it became like a really sharp rhino horn on something? There isn't really a right or wrong way to do this. It's just looking at those shapes that are already there and getting creative with what you can make from them. Now, one thing about this worksheet, the copy that you get today is your only copy. When I look back at the last two projects, I've made almost 200 extra copies. That's too many extra copies. So what that tells me is people just aren't keeping track of their stuff. So you're going to get your copy today, and that's the one that you need to turn in next week. If you lose it, I'll give you a new copy, but it's going to cost you 5 minutes of after school time helping me clean up the art room. And that way, we can hopefully remember that we have to keep track of our papers and not just keep asking Mrs. Carlisle for another copy and another copy and another copy. So a quick review of what it is that we need to do today. Turn in our windows after we finished up that whole project. Then we start getting creative and we make those organic animal creature drawings. Remember up at the top it says to be neat, because I want you to be neat. And it says to get creative, because I know you guys have some really cool ideas and are going to be able to turn those shapes into some awesome things. I also want you to notice down at the bottom though, it asks you to write a short story telling me more about your picture. I want a story, I don't want a statement. So don't just say, I drew a dog. I want you to say, I drew Sparky, the super dog who travels from Mars in search of a secret bone. He travels from planet to planet searching for this bone. When he finds it, he'll be able to return to Mars and rule the world. Or something like that. Okay? All right. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys next week. All right, sixth graders. So the big thing that we need to work on today is being absolutely ready to paint next week. So that's kind of a two-part thing. Number one, I need you to make sure that your color wheels are finished. Those should be all the way done. We'll get them all handed back to you. You can look them over, make sure all your colored pencil parts are done, make sure that your painting is all done. If for some reason your painting isn't finished, you need to finish that today. Now, I'm not there to have 1 or 2 trays out, so you're gonna have to get out your paint. Now, it doesn't take very much, just a couple little dots of paint is all it's gonna take on the tray. And after you're done, instead of just throwing away the magazine, you actually have to wash the paint tray because you're the only one using it. So you can get out a paint tray, you can put a couple colors on it that you need, paint your color wheel, and then you have to wash it and you have to wash up your paintbrush. I don't want to come back to school on Wednesday and find a big paint mess because that will not make me be very excited for painting next week with you guys. Okay, so you have your paint color wheel all done. Now we want to get our drawing completely ready to go. When we walk in the door next Tuesday, we want to be able to paint. We don't want to have people drawing. We just want to be able to paint. So a couple things. Remember, number one, when we talk about drawing things, that left side of our brain doesn't really know how to draw. The right side of our brain does. The left side of our brain is the side of our brain that likes to talk. So I'm going to ask you guys to work super duper quiet today, not because I'm being mean, but because I really want you to be able to focus on what it is that you're doing. So remember, you should have your animal picked out. If you don't, there's a couple on the back table and you have to just pick from the ones that are back there. But once you have your animal picked out, you're going to get your piece of plastic and you lay that piece of plastic right on top of your animal. When you have it on there, you use those Expo markers and you draw out the shapes. Only the shapes. Circles and squares and triangles. Don't try to draw the outline of the cow because that's not the shape. It's going to be just those shapes. So here I have my cow already traced out. If I take it and I flip it to the back side, you can see all my different shapes. I kind of have like a little teardrop shape. I have some ovals. I have a square. I have another oval. I have some rectangles that go into triangles. So all of those shapes. I'm not worried about outlining the cow. I'm worried about drawing those shapes because remember, the left side of my brain likes to draw shapes because they're easy. Once I have that done, I'm going to get my final copy paper. You only get one piece of final copy paper. It has 2 sides, but you only get one piece. So make sure that you draw nice and light because you don't want those dark lines messing you up when you get to the next step. Once you have that done, you're going to draw out your shapes. So you can see, like here, I kind of have some of those shapes that I started to draw, and they're pretty light because I just very, very lightly drew them out. Then in some areas you can see where I've started to go back over darker and I've put in like the details of the ear and the details of the eye because I'm starting to make that final copy. So after I get all my shapes drawn, then I can go wash this off and put it back in the container. And I'm going to go just to my photograph. And once I have my photograph, then I can start to look at the details on the ear, the shape of the eye. How does that actual face shape look around there? Where does the body go? All of those things. When you draw it out, the other thing you want to think about is use up all of your paper. When you get ready to look at your picture, like on mine, my cow's going off the edge. That's totally fine. He can go off the edge. That's way better than a little tiny cow floating right here in the middle because you're going to be painting these. And when you're painting with a paintbrush, trying to get into those little teeny tiny spots is really, really tough. So you want to make sure that you draw them nice and big so you have plenty of space to paint and get all those details in there. So again, by the end of class, color wheels should be finished up. Animals should be drawn out completely. And don't forget to think about background. It could be as simple as a horizon line where you say this is the sky and this is the ground. Or it could be, you know what, I want my cow to be in a field of grass, and so you draw some grass in there. It's up to you how you're going to do this. But again, I want them completely drawn out and ready to go so that next week when we walk in the door, we can all start painting our animals because you only have 2 class periods to get all of your painting done. If you were to happen to get all of that work done, then you can go on and do a free draw. But again, best effort. If you need to have a friend check it out and say, hey, how's this looking? What are some suggestions that you have for me? Go for it. But again, quiet, working, animals drawn out, color wheel ready to go. Okay? Thanks, and I'll see you guys on a week from today.